Hello friends, this is Karthikeya Singh working as an assistant professor in the School of Management Sciences, Varanasi. We are into the fourth part of this lecture series, and today we are going to cover the basic introduction of section B as well as how to do extensive literature survey through this video lecture. So let's move ahead. We have already covered introduction and experiential learning. We have kept it, we are going to cover it at the end of the entire project report. And literature review today we are going to cover, and other parts will be covered in upcoming lecture videos. So let's start with the section B, and in section B, introduction. In introduction, there are 4 topics, and then extensive literature review is there. So in introduction, what is the project, outline of the project, objective and scope of the project, and silent contribution of the project. And at the end of this particular lecture video, we are also going to cover literature overview, and we are going to utilize 5 to 10 pages to do this. And in introduction, while covering all these 4 parts, we are going to utilize 10 pages. This is I'm preparing a summer internship project report to help you all, so that you can take a clue from this summer internship project report and you can improvise things in your own summer internship project report on the basis of this sample project report. So if I am taking care of this customer attitude and perception towards would be product and services offered by Big Bazaar. So if you talk about, we have to consider attitude, then perception, then product and services, and finally Big Bazaar as an organization. So we have to justify all these things. Why we are expected to justify all these things in what is the project? Because we have to deal as a subject matter. What we understand with the term attitude, what is our understanding of perception, and what all product and services which usually Big Bazaar deciphers, we are going to cover through this. So we have to segregate the entire project title into 4 parts. What is attitude, what is perception, what are the product and services being sold by Big Bazaar. So we are going to segregate into 4 major parts, and we are going to cover it in the what is the project. So these are interrelated to each other. How attitude influences perception building process, and is there any relationship which is coming out of your extensive literature survey? We are also going to mention it in the outline of the project. So we are going to establish certain relationship, or we are going to mention certain relationship between these 4 important factors in the outline of the project. Then by discussing different relationship between these factors, we are going to devise objective of the project. And then through objective, we are also going to tell what would be the scope of the project. And while discussing our scope of the project, we are again going to add silent contribution of this project, means how this particular summer internship project report is going to contribute in further studies. So it is going to help future researchers also, and whatever the outcome would be, we are going to cover it through silent contribution of the project. So these are the basic structure which we are going to cover through what is the project, outline of the project, objective and scope of the project, and silent contribution of the project. And moving further, we are going to do extensive literature survey. But this is the process, and you always have to, if you really want to do some genuine research, you will have to follow this structure or this process. First, you are expected to do a literature survey which is available, means whatever the literature sources are available pertaining to your research topic or title of the project, you are going to do this through process. So first you are going to do literature survey, then you are going to identify gap on the basis of your extensive literature survey. Then after identifying your gap, now you are aware that what kind of problem is already existing, on the basis of which we are going to go ahead with the research problem. And on the basis of that problem area, we are going to ascertain our objective, what all objective we can devise on the basis of problem area, which is going to be devised through gap, and ultimately gap is being driven through an extensive literature survey. and ultimately by devising objective we are going to do the research. So this is the actual flow of information, means this is the genuine structure of research. But unfortunately we start first through research topic is being given by your company or by any of your supervisor. Then we, as per the research, we usually fix our objective, and on the basis of our objective we devise our research problem, and on the basis of our research problem we identify our gap, and on the basis of our gap we are going to do literature survey. But this is not the genuine process. If you really want to do genuine research, you'll have to follow this process in our research design part, and everything we are going to cover on the basis of this previous work. And it start with extensive literature survey. I have already mentioned an Wikipedia link, which we're going to do this literature survey. I'll give you a practical example how we usually carry out our extensive literature survey. I'll show you through my example, which I have collected different research papers, and on the basis of that research paper, how I have segregated, created a separate sheet. What does this format tells you? First, you have to mention your serial number. First, you have to mention your serial number, then author, who have contributed that research paper, then title of the research paper, findings. You have to mention it in this section. And on the basis of these three outcomes, you are going to identify gap, because every research paper mentions that what are the gaps which those people were not able to solve. So if you keep on reading different research papers, through those research papers you are going to know what are the gaps which is existing. In the previous slide also I have mentioned one database, but these are the Indian database, and these days which these links are being utilized more frequently, like Sodh Ganga, Sodh Gangotri. These are the two Government of India website working on inflibnet.ac.in, sodhganga.inflibnet.ac.in. Likewise, sodhgangotri.inflibnet.ac.in platform is also there. Another database is there, connectedresearchers.com, online tools for researchers. It is a consortia of different online platforms where you are going to fetch different research papers. So you're getting nothing out of your hard time spent on this process. So you are going to utilize the next database is googlescholars.com. In googlescholars.com, this is again very handy database. In most of the cases you are going to PDF downloads for research papers. If you are not going to get those PDF downloads in this research paper link, then you can utilize other platforms, and you will get research paper name and their DOI through this Google Scholar website. And from that Google Scholar website, you can utilize on net, and on internet several platforms are there through which you can download those papers. And through that Google Sheet, you can take a clue from the extensive literature survey work, and you can also identify the gap of your own summer internship project reports. Now, let me show you how we usually do this extensive literature survey. As title of the research paper or thesis, findings, and gap which we have got through a particular research paper, and gap improvised, then problem which we have faced through that gap identification, and on the basis of that problem we are going to devise our objective. And this is the process which every researcher or summer internship project report student should follow. But unfortunately we are going to follow the reverse process. We get problem from the company, and on the basis of that company topic we usually devise our objective, then we come to our problem, then we identify our gap, and then we reach to our extensive literature survey. But unfortunately you are not expected to do that. If you are going to do a genuine research work, you'll have to start with extensive literature survey, and in extensive literature survey you have to mention the first researcher's name, then title of the research paper, then findings, then gap improvised, problem, and then objective of the research. Name, then title of the paper, and this is the finding. Likewise, I have almost downloaded 20 research papers and mentioned these 20 findings. While reading these findings, you'll come to know what are the different gaps which we are fetching. If you go to the right direction, and these are the gaps which came out of that extensive literature survey. Shopping priorities related to the product attribute, customer expectations among about pricing, expectation of customers desirable in shopping malls like Big Bazaar, what are the promotional. So you are going to identify these gaps, and on the basis of this gap, you have to improvise your gap. And once like this gap was related to the product, so my gap was, first gap was product related, second gap was price related, third gap was promotional related, fourth gap was people related, fifth gap was process related. So if you follow these extensive literature survey and whatever gap you have identified, if you are going to improvise, and some common sense you'll have to utilize while devising it. Like if somebody is saying that shopping priority related research work has not happened yet, that means product related attribute is there. So that means some gap is there related to product attribute. So how we are going to convert into a problem? What kind of product expectation is there amongst the customer related to product or services being offered by Big Bazaar? And on the basis of this problem, we are going to identify our objective. If this is the problem, what kind of product expectation is there amongst customers? So on the basis of this problem, what would be our objective? To identify customer expectation related to the product attribute. Likewise, customer expectation, then customer expectation related to price, it was the gap. So we can improvise it into the price related thing. And what problem can be faced out of this gap? What is the expectation of price amongst the customers? To identify the customer's expectations related to the price attribute, which is going to build perception about the store. So I'm going to give you this sheet link, Google Sheet link, or even I can convert into PDF and give you the link of this Google Drive. And through that, you can download it. And on the basis of this basic structure, you can also do your own summer internship project report, gap identification, as well as problem identification and objective identification. This is just a extensive literature part. How we can write these things in our own research project report? Let me show you that. Take this mouse. We have already covered this introduction, industry overview, then company overview. These things are already been covered by us. In experiential learning pages, we have already left this section, because at the end of the entire summer internship project report, we are going to discuss it much in detail. And in section B, this is the section which is expected to be written in our research project report. So let me show you from section B part how I have written all those things in my research project report. And in section B, we have started with introduction. This is the introduction part. In the left hand side, this is the format, and in the right hand side, this is the actual work. And on the basis of this actual work, you can also improvise things in your summer internship project report. So let me show you what is the project. Here I have basically mentioned what all things are there in retail structure. So basic how retail industry is moving, what is their growth, and what is their potential, and how things will move in coming future. I have mentioned all those things. But if you move further, now I have started defining different terms in my summer internship project report. My summer internship project was a study on the customer attitude and perception towards product and services offered by Big Bazaar. So I am defining customer perception, then I am defining attitude. And why this topic? I'm just covering this, what is the project, but I'm mentioning it, why I have chosen this particular topic. So I'm justifying my topic. Like earlier research works were not very much clear about different product and services attribute, and how this product and services attribute is going to help customers perception building process. So I have mentioned all these important details. Now, outline of the project, I'm going to, as I have already divided into some smaller section, and on those smaller section, I'm going to establish certain relationship between them. So in outline of the project report, on the basis of my previous extensive literature survey, I have selected one model. In that model, how perceiver takes things, how object or target being perceived, and in the context of the situation in which perception is made. These three factors are important while establishing a relationship between attitude and perception, which I have dealt through this model. This is the perception and this is the attitude. So factors in the perceiver and this is attitude. This influences your perception. From where I have got this data, I have to do extensive literature survey to take out this model. And on the basis of this model, I can say that these are the responsible factor which influences perception. And these are the responsible factor which is also going to be influenced by 7 P's, like product related attribute, price related attribute, place related attribute, promotional related attribute, people related attribute, then process related attribute, and ultimately physical evidence related attributes. So I'm going to discuss all those, like characteristics of the perception. These are the different attributes of that. Then characteristics of the target. I'm discussing it, the model which I'm using, and I'm going to establish certain relationship among this different factors, characteristics of the situation. And again, after mentioning that model, I'm also going to mention 7 P's and how these 7 P are going to influence my perception or attitude building process. So if you talk about product is going to be dealt through design, technology, perceived usefulness, convenience of use, quality, packaging. Likewise, all 7 P's and their different attributes are going to be dealt in detail. So product attribute, price attribute, place attribute, promotional attribute, people attribute, process attribute, physical evidence attribute. So now I have already mentioned how perception, attitude, and these 7 P's are interrelated to each other. And I'm just writing this, what is the project and outline of the project. If you see this format, what is the project? There I have segregated into 4 important parts: attitude, perception, and different product and services being offered by Big Bazaar. In outline, how different factors are interrelated to each other, I'm going to establish those relationships in the outline of the project. I have already shown you that. Objective of the project, this objective of the project is being fetched through my extensive literature work, which I have already shown you. Like, this is the extensive literature work, an extensive literature survey format I have already shown you, and this is the different research paper being fetched from online platforms. And on the basis of this, I have already identified our gap. These are the gaps. On the basis of this gap, we have improvised gap, then problem, and then objective. And from these objectives, I have taken all these major objective of my project report. So what all objectives I'm going to cover: that customer expectation related to the product attribute, identify the customer expectation related to price attribute, then convenience factors, promotional strategy factors, people related attributes, process related attribute, and ambience, that is physical evidence related attributes. So these factors, 7 factors, are going to be objective of my research project report. And on the basis of research project report, I'm going to identify silent contribution, which is going to be dealt through these objectives. So on the basis of these objectives, I'm going to write on silent contribution of this project report. First objective, let me show you from where I have taken this. This particular thing is taken from the first objective. I have already mentioned it. Second contribution comes from the second objective. Third contribution would come from fourth objective. Likewise, all 7 objective are going to going to contribute something to the existing knowledge base, or they are going to add something new to the existing knowledge base. So this would be the silent contribution of my project report. And if you talk about the format, in the format we have already covered what is the project, outline of the project, objective and scope of the project, and silent contribution of the project we have already discussed here. Now literature survey. As I have already shown you the extensive literature survey platform, and on the basis of this extensive literature survey platform, I have mentioned all important attributes. These are the different research paper and their findings. I'm going to mention on the basis of those different research paper. For this particular project, I have downloaded almost 20 research papers. So I have already mentioned it. At this point of time, just I want to reiterate, like whatever research work you are going to go ahead, you always have to do some good extensive literature survey. It will create the background of your entire research project report, and you'll conveniently be able to identify your objective, and on the basis of your objective, again, you are going to devise your questionnaire. So these are interrelated processes. Once you have done your extensive literature survey, you will be able to identify your gap. Once you have identified your gap, you are going to identify your problem. Once you have identified your problem, you will be able to identify your objective of the entire research project report. And on the basis of objective of the project report, you are going to do your research. And ultimately, you are going to devise your questionnaire, and you are going to collect data, do the data analysis part. And on the basis of that, only you are going to complete your research project report. अब इसे रिवाइज करते हैं कि हम लोग ने फोर्थ पार्ट में किया क्या. सेक्शन बी में इंट्रोडक्शन के पार्ट को हम लोग ने 4 सब पार्ट्स में बांटा, और उसमें हम लोग ने डील किया कि हमारा प्रोजेक्ट क्या होगा, प्रोजेक्ट का आउटलाइन क्या होगा, ऑब्जेक्टिव और स्कोप प्रोजेक्ट का क्या होगा, साइलेंट कंट्रीब्यूशन प्रोजेक्ट का क्या होगा. और इसको करने के लिए हम लोगों ने एक प्रोजेक्ट आपको लाइव करके भी दिखाया कि वो प्रोजेक्ट कैसे इनकॉर्पोरेट किए जाते हैं और कैसे प्रैक्टिकली किए जाते हैं. उन सारे प्रोजेक्ट के लिंक और डेटाबेस के लिंक आपको इस लेक्चर वीडियो के डिस्क्रिप्शन बॉक्स में शेयर कर दिया जाएगा, ताकि आप भी उन डेटाबेसेस को यूज कर सकें और उसके बेसिस पे आप भी अपने प्रोजेक्ट को तैयार कर सकें. तो हम लोगों ने क्या, व्हाट इज द प्रोजेक्ट में कवर किया. जैसे मेरे प्रोजेक्ट में मेरा टॉपिक था कस्टमर एटीट्यूड परसेप्शन टुवर्ड्स प्रोडक्ट एंड सर्विसेज ऑफर्ड बाय बिग बाजार. तो हम लोगों ने एटीट्यूड, परसेप्शन, प्रोडक्ट और सर्विसेज ऑफ बिग बाजार, उसको छोटे छोटे टुकड़ों में बांट लिया, और हम लोगों ने डिफाइन किया कि एटीट्यूड क्या होगा, परसेप्शन क्या होगा, प्रोडक्ट सर्विसेज जो बिग बाजार प्रोवाइड कर रहा है वो कैसे परसेप्शन एटीट्यूड बिल्डिंग प्रोसेस को इन्फ्लुएंस करेगा. ये हम लोगों ने व्हाट इज द प्रोजेक्ट में डिफाइन किया. फिर आउटलाइन ऑफ द प्रोजेक्ट में हम लोगों ने कोशिश किया कि एटीट्यूड और परसेप्शन के बीच में क्या रिलेशनशिप है, और एटीट्यूड परसेप्शन बिल्डिंग के प्रोसेस में प्रोडक्ट और सर्विसेज कैसे उस चीज को इन्फ्लुएंस करते हैं. तो इन दोनों चीजों को हम लोगों ने आउटलाइन ऑफ द प्रोजेक्ट में मेंशन कर दिया. ऑब्जेक्टिव ऑफ द प्रोजेक्ट रिपोर्ट, चूंकि हम लोगों ने एक्सटेंसिव लिटरेचर सर्वे किया हुआ है, उस एक्सटेंसिव लिटरेचर सर्वे के बेसिस पे हम लोगों ने ऑब्जेक्टिव ऑफ द रिसर्च प्रोजेक्ट और स्कोप ऑफ द रिसर्च प्रोजेक्ट तय कर लिया, और उसी ऑब्जेक्टिव के बेसिस पे हम लोगों ने बता दिया कि ये प्रोजेक्ट आगे चल के क्या क्या कंट्रीब्यूट करने वाला है. और अल्टीमेटली सेकेंड पार्ट में एक्सटेंसिव लिटरेचर सर्वे हम करें कैसे, उसके बारे में हम लोगों ने प्रैक्टिकली आपको एग्जाम्पल के थ्रू समझाया. प्रॉब्लम क्या होता है कि हम लोग जनरली टॉपिक जो मिलता है वो कंपनी के थ्रू रिसर्च का मिलता है, और रिसर्च के बेसिस पे हम ऑब्जेक्टिव तय करते हैं, ऑब्जेक्टिव के बाद प्रॉब्लम तक पहुंचते हैं, फिर गैप आइडेंटिफाई करते हैं और लिटरेचर सर्वे करते हैं. जबकि ये प्रोसेस गलत है. हमें चलना कैसे चाहिए, लिटरेचर सर्वे करना चाहिए, लिटरेचर सर्वे के थ्रू गैप आइडेंटिफाई करना चाहिए, गैप के थ्रू हम प्रॉब्लम आइडेंटिफाई करते हैं, प्रॉब्लम आइडेंटिफाई करने के बाद ऑब्जेक्टिव तय करते हैं, और फिर हम रिसर्च कैरी आउट करते हैं. इस चीज को करने के लिए हमारे पास ये नीचे एक डिस्क्रिप्शन बॉक्स में भी आपको लिंक मिल जाएगा. इस लिंक के थ्रू आप अलग अलग डेटाबेसेस को जान सकते हैं जिसके थ्रू आप एक्सटेंसिव लिटरेचर सर्वे करते हैं. यहाँ पे कंस्ट्रेंट क्या आता है कि जैसे आपको कंपनी ने टॉपिक दे दिया, उसके बाद उस टॉपिक के बेसिस पे आप ऑब्जेक्टिव तय करते हो. जबकि एक्सपेक्टेड क्या है, आप पहले लिटरेचर सर्वे करो, उसके बाद गैप आइडेंटिफाई करो, गैप से आप प्रॉब्लम एरियाज तक पहुंचो, और उन प्रॉब्लम एरियाज के बेसिस पे आप ऑब्जेक्टिव तय करो, और ऑब्जेक्टिव तय करने के बाद आप रिसर्च कैरी आउट करो. इस प्रोसेस, जेन्युइन प्रोसेस के थ्रू अगर आप काम करते हो तो आपके पास हर एक चीज का जस्टिफिकेशन होगा. बट अनफॉर्चुनेटली हम लोग ये रिवर्स प्रोसेस अडॉप्ट करते हैं और आगे चल के हमें समझ में नहीं आता कि हमारा ऑब्जेक्टिव आया कहाँ से, फिर हम लोग ने प्रॉब्लम आइडेंटिफाई किया था वो हुआ कैसे, इसके लिए गैप का क्या क्या हो सकते थे। तो हम रिवर्स प्रोसेस में चलते, इस वजह से हमें जस्टिफिकेशन में प्रॉब्लम आती है। जबकि जेन्युइन प्रोसेस अगर हम लोग ने ये फॉलो किया तो हमें प्रॉब्लम नहीं आएगी। आगे बढ़ते हैं। ये फॉर्मेट जनरली आपको एक्सटेंसिव लिटरेचर सर्वे में हेल्प करता है। सीरियल नंबर, ऑथर, टाइटल ऑफ द पेपर और फाइंडिंग्स। इनको अगर आप पेपर वाइज कॉपी करके पेस्ट करते जाएं एक एक्सेल सीट पे, और एक्सेल सीट पे मैं अभी करके भी मैंने दिखाया हुआ है, तो आपका एक बेसिक प्लेटफॉर्म बन जाएगा एक्सटेंसिव लिटरेचर सर्वे का, और उस एक्सटेंसिव लिटरेचर सर्वे के बेसिस पे आप गैप आइडेंटिफाई कर पाओगे। गैप आइडेंटिफाई कैसे होता है? हर पेपर ये मेंशन करता है कि कौन कौन सी ऐसी चीजें हैं जिसको वो कवर नहीं कर पाए, एंड विच ऑल थिंग्स कैन बी कवर्ड इन फर्दर रिसर्चेस। आप आगे के रिसर्चेस में उन चीजों को कवर कर सकते हो। तो इन चीजों को अगर ये डील नहीं कर पा रहा है तो वो आपके लिए गैप है। तो इसी तरह हर रिसर्च पेपर का एक गैप आइडेंटिफाई होगा, और उस गैप के बेसिस पे यू आर गोइंग टू डील विद इट। और इस चीज को करने के लिए मैंने अगेन यहाँ पे आपको कई डिफरेंट डेटाबेसेस मेंशन किए हैं। शोध गंगा मैंने बताया, शोध गंगा एक प्लेटफॉर्म है जहाँ पे सारे रिसर्च पेपर, इंडियन रिसर्च पेपर्स और थीसिस, पीएचडी वर्क्स आजकल एक कंसोर्टिया के रूप में रहते हैं। देन connectedresearchers.com, ये बहुत बड़ा डेटाबेस है जहाँ पे डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ प्लेटफॉर्म्स अवेलेबल हैं जिसके थ्रू आप उस डेटाबेस को क्रिएट कर सकते हो। देन हमने फिर ये करने के बाद हमने आपको प्लेटफॉर्म दिखाया, ये कैसे एक्सटेंसिव लिटरेचर सर्वे किया जाता है, एक्सटेंसिव लिटरेचर सर्वे करने का तरीका, कैसे हम गूगल सीट पे अलग अलग सेक्शंस में चीजों को पेस्ट करते हैं, हम लोगों ने ये दिखाया। जैसे रिसर्चर, टाइटल ऑफ द रिसर्चर, फाइंडिंग, देन गैप, गैप के बाद गैप, इम्प्रोवाइज्ड गैप और प्रॉब्लम आइडेंटिफिकेशन, और उसके बाद हम लोगों ने उसका ऑब्जेक्टिव तय किया। और इसी ऑब्जेक्टिव को हम लोगों ने अपने राइट हैंड साइड वाले पे जो एक्सटेंसिव लिटरेचर सर्वे के बेसिस पे आया, वो हम लोगों ने यहाँ पे करके दिखाया। तो ये दोनों डेटाबेस और दोनों डेटाबेस के लिंक्स मैं आपको प्रोवाइड करने वाला हूं, ताकि आप खुद से देख के समझ पाए कि चीजों को करना कैसे है, और इसके बेसिस पे आप भी अपने रिसर्च प्रोजेक्ट रिपोर्ट को अच्छे से कंप्लीट कर पाए। अभी के लिए इतना ही। मुझे लगता है कि आप अपना एक्सटेंसिव लिटरेचर सर्वे और प्रॉब्लम आइडेंटिफिकेशन और बेसिक इंट्रोडक्शन पार्ट अच्छे से लिख पाएंगे। और अभी तक के फॉर्मेट में जो हम लोगों ने कवर किया है, वो इंट्रोडक्शन पार्ट मैंने अभी आपको प्रीवियस लेक्चर में मैंने ऑलरेडी उसका लिंक दिया हुआ है। हम लोगों ने ब्रीफ प्रोफाइल कवर कर लिया, साइज ऑफ द इंडस्ट्री, प्रोडक्ट एंड सर्विसेज ऑफ द इंडस्ट्री, ये हमारे राइट साइड वाले डेटाबेस में ऑलरेडी मेंशन्ड है। आपको जब ये लिंक शेयर किया जाएगा तो आप उस लिंक के थ्रू आप उनको उस पूरे मटेरियल को देख सकते हैं, और वो मटेरियल लिया कहाँ से गया है ये भी इस पे मेंशन्ड है। तो दोनों चीजें आप एक ही डेटाबेस पे पा सकते हो। फर्स्ट पार्ट कंप्लीट हो गया, देन कंपनी ओवरव्यू भी कंप्लीट हो चुका, राइट साइड पे वो भी आपको मिल जाएगा। एक्सपीरियंशियल लर्निंग हम लोग ने टाइम बिंग छोड़ दिया है, क्योंकि ये रिसर्च प्रोजेक्ट के एंड पे कवर किया जाएगा। और हम लोगों ने आज सेक्शन बी का इंट्रोडक्शन, व्हाट इज द प्रोजेक्ट, आउटलाइन ऑफ द प्रोजेक्ट, ऑब्जेक्टिव एंड स्कोप ऑफ द प्रोजेक्ट, साइलेंट कंट्रीब्यूशन ऑफ द प्रोजेक्ट को कवर किया, और एक्सटेंसिव लिटरेचर सर्वे के लिए प्रैक्टिकली गूगल सीट पे करके दिखाया। तो मुझे लगता है इससे आपको एक बेसिक फ्रेमवर्क बन चुका होगा, और एक फ्रेमवर्क, इस फ्रेमवर्क के थ्रू आप अपने रिसर्च प्रोजेक्ट रिपोर्ट को अच्छे से कंप्लीट कर पाओगे। अभी के लिए इतना ही। थैंक यू फॉर वॉचिंग।